Nice. Off we go. So we'll see the attendees coming in. There you go. We're live on Facebook as well. Hello, Christine. First attendee to join us today, which is great. We'll just give it a second before we launch so that people can join. Those who aren't, they're on the dots, because it does take a little while to come in. Oh, no. Sorry, Nicole, I made a mistake there. I'm really sorry. Instead, Samuel, join us on the panelist side. Hi, Christine in the chat. Lovely to have you here. And we have Samuel as well, who is our final panelist. And with that, let's start. It's my pleasure to host the session today, which is our TFF Topical Roundtable on post-COVID for smallholders. So we're joined by wonderful entrepreneurs from our community who are in different countries. And they are joining us today to tell us a little bit about how they're working with smallholder farmers, how this has changed during COVID, and what they learned from it, and how the future might look like for these smallholders, and what could support them as well. So because it's all about you guys, I won't spend too much time on me and TFF, but this is part of our larger kind of live session program. And so Lincoln, do you want to start us off with telling us a little bit more about yourself and RiseHarvest?
Okay, hello everyone. And my name is Lincoln. I'm the co-founder of Rice Inc. So Rice Inc. is essentially a social enterprise, and our mission is to tackle world hunger. And how we do this, we focus on the rice industry. So we basically source quality rice from around Southeast Asia, and we reinvest our profits to help our farmers get sustainable agri-tech that they really need. And we've been fortunate enough to go through the TFF accelerator and be a finalist through the whole process 2 years ago in 2018. And we actually took home the Ticket to the Farmer prize by the Borlaug Foundation, and that helped us set up our very first pilot, actually. And yeah, I'll be glad to learn about all my fellow panelists' experiences and the discussion.
Wonderful. Sam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. G'day everybody. My name's Sam. I'm from Australia. I'm part of RiseHarvest, which is a early stage social enterprise dedicated to working with rice farmers, similar to Lincoln and Rice Inc. So we work with farmers in Myanmar on fertilizer timing, trying to help farmers put out fertilizer at the best time to increase their yields and reduce their costs, and also reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the nitrogen fertilizer. And so, yeah, we've been developing this smartphone tool with farmers for the last couple of years. We've sat down with over 200 farmers trying to learn how to make these tools useful. And we recently did a pilot with 30 farmers in the last dry season in Myanmar. The pilot hasn't been going so well, and that's partly because of COVID-19, but mainly because of problems with the tool. So now we're working with farmers on that remotely. So but the people in Myanmar are also remote from farmers. So what we're really grappling with at the moment is how to work with farmers remotely. We've had a lot of headaches and a lot of frustrations, but we're really excited about if we can get it to work. It opens up so many possibilities. I'm really excited to talk about our experiences and learn from the others as well.
Cool. Sounds like there's a lot that I want to hear about, and a lot of lessons in there. Lintang, do you want to tell us about you and Neurafarm, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Lintang. I'm from Indonesia. Basically, I'm from Neurafarm, a smart farming company who work with a lot of smallholder farmers, urban farmers, and also the hobbyists who want to learn about agriculture. Our mission is to improve the productivity, to increase the efficiency, and also efficiency in agricultural industry. And our first step to agricultural practices is through pest and disease recognition. So we help farmers to identify the plant and disease through the image. So the farms only need to do is capture the plants that infected by the pest or the disease and directly into our app's name, Dr. Tania, and it's already you can download guys in the Play Store, and it's still free until now. Then we automatically with our artificial intelligence system, we could give you the name of the disease and how to treat it, and also you can directly make a consultation one-on-one to our expert. Yep.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, so here we have someone with a solution that's a fully kind of smart solution online. So that's going to be interesting as well to hear how you interact with your smallholder farmers that you work with. And that leaves Samuel. Hello, do you want to introduce what you do at Safi Organics?
Right, it's a pleasure to meet every one of you. I'm Samuel Rigu, the co-founder and CEO of Safi Organics. And in Safi Organics, we simply use technology to decentralize and small-scale fertilizer production, making it possible for the bulk of fertilizer to be produced locally. Why we do this is because we realize farmers are paying 2 to 5 times the world fertilizer prices here in Africa or in the developing world compared to the developed world. And the main reason behind this is because of the logistical cost to get the fertilizers to these countries. Therefore, we are trying to change that and increase access to high quality performing fertilizers that increase the farmer's yield by up to 30%. And currently we are working on building on soil testing for these farmers, because we realized this is something that is critical for them, because we also want to tailor make our fertilizer to fit these soils.
Perfect, I can see many connections between Samuel and Sam here. So let's start a little bit kind of at the beginning. So how, before everything changed, how did you work with smallholder farmers? How did you connect with them? And then if you can tell us a little bit about how that changed now and how the reality of the farmers you work with changed as well. So maybe Sam, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, okay. So I guess the way we started out was we were trying to build a smartphone app where farmers could take photos of their rice leaves, and then based on the color of the leaf, it would diagnose nutrient deficiencies and how much fertilizer is needed. And so we went to the farmers and asked them about this product and what were the problems with it. And then they said, this is a stupid idea. Like, for one thing, I can't take my phone to my rice field and drop it in the water. That's a problem. And then they also said all the different lighting will mean that the photos don't work properly. So I said, oh yeah, we didn't think of that. And then they also said, like, even if you tell me I have to use more fertilizer, that's not very useful for me. I can't afford to use more fertilizer. And so then we keep pivoting around these problems to work out what is a real problem and what's a real way to solve that problem. And we were always taking a very sort of a consultative approach with farmers. So we would develop prototypes, take it to farmers. Farmers would tell us all the problems with it, and then we go away, work on it again, and continually iterating with that. But that approach we can't take anymore. Being isolated from farmers, we can't work with them face to face anymore. So we're so blind to the reality of farmers right now. And so as a result, we're no longer taking a consultative approach. We're now trying to take a collaborative approach where we develop the prototypes with the farmers, not for farmers. So we're working with a small group of 3 or 4 farmers at the moment, or only 3, and trying to develop it with them because we're just so blind without their understanding.
Perfect, thank you. Lintang, I think let's hear from you because, Sam was telling us about developing this app and pivoting and trying new things and asking, the farmers how they feel about it. And I know that you also had some demonstration plots planned and this face-to-face interaction that you can no longer do. So can you tell us, please, a little bit of what Neurafarm has been doing?
So for the couple of years, we've been doing several activities, but the important one is we went to farmer and talk to them one-on-one. We explore what they need and what we can help through the applications, and also we conduct a usability testing, and also we want to have and hear the feedbacks of our apps to them. And also for the couple of months, we created a demonstration plot that could improve our R&D and our catalog library. Then it's very hard at the first place because we have to make sure that farmers need to do what we want for as a good agriculture practice, that we want to know the result. But as the time goes by, it's like a challenging, but yeah, with a big effort and our field agent and our agronomists, that it can be held perfectly. But and the pandemic's crashing out, and it's very confusing at the first place because we didn't prepare anything for this pandemic. But fortunately, we partner with smart farmers that could report their daily activities, because when the government said that we have to physical distancing, we as a core team, we decided to cut all of the employees to go to office and also to the field for the sake of their safety. And we're conducting the work from home, but we work with several farmers who really supportive, and they can maintain their own field by our monitor in a remote area like that. And also we still basically because we are apps based, so it's not a lot of change at all. We still conduct our consultations for the users who want to ask about their pests, their crops, or their problems on the field. So it's not much different from before the COVID strike.
Yeah, I think that's the plus of having a smart solution that obviously your users are already used to. Samuel, do you want to tell us a little bit about your situation? Because you work with them, with the farmers hands-on, and maybe if you tell us a little bit about what the situation in Kenya is like, and how you've had to maybe change operations or change the way you work with the smallholders.
Currently the situation is aggravating and getting worse by day. I think recently we got to 1,200 cases with reported 50 deaths. We have had a few of cities under lockdown, as well as the cessation of movement in different areas, so you cannot completely access these areas. And we also have a curfew that starts at 7 and ends at 5 a.m. So all these factors have really affected us, both directly and indirectly, because number one, I'll start with the end, because the market usually operates like 24 hours, the farmer market, because they buy the produce during the day. It is transported at night and gets to the market in the morning. Now they have to buy the produce today and transport it tomorrow, where perishable produce becomes really difficult to tackle. Now that has in itself affected the market end. However, from the farmers' side, we are still interacting with the farmers. Now, not on one-on-one, but through calls, through SMSs, through WhatsApp. We are keeping quite a lot of touch with them. However, in terms of them and in terms of them farming and doing that, most of them have reduced the amount of land they're farming or taking in the input because of the market threat, because already what they have is not really getting to the market on time, and therefore the prices are being affected very significantly. Therefore, we are currently also thinking or working on developing an application whereby we can have one-on-one with these farmers and they can give us direct feedback without us necessarily going to the farm. So all our marketing team currently working from home because they cannot go in the field. The production team is still functional and working from the facility, part of them, but with measures and precautionary measures being employed.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of things are being affected. And I guess, I mean, it comes down to kind of the supply chain issue as well that we've heard a lot of, and that, you know, the food just isn't coming from the farmer to the people the way it was before. And so there are a lot of solutions now working on exactly that. And I guess that's what you're seeing, that you're seeing that disconnect there. Lincoln, do you have similar experiences where you are? Because you obviously also work with a lot of farmers directly.
Yeah, so actually funnily enough, we work also with rice farmers in Myanmar, and now we were planning to expand to work with farmers in Malaysia as well. But what happened with the pandemic, I think we got a bit lucky, because in the beginning when we were designing our model, how it works is we basically install a rice dryer in the village. That's the technology that we focused on in the beginning. And so we became like a laundromat service for rice drying for rice farmers. That's how I like to describe it. And we realized pretty soon that we didn't have the manpower, or it wouldn't be sustainable to basically place a rice ink person in the village running essentially like a laundromat shop. So what we had to do was we had to partner with a farmer or an influential individual, like maybe a village leader or community leader in that village, and have them run it and work some sort of arrangement for them so that it benefits them as well. And I think that when the pandemic happened, this was actually quite a blessing in disguise, because they were still able to run it without the need for us to be there. I think what changed was that we actually had a lot of plans to sort of expand and meet a lot more partners, and actually introduce new projects and new projects, and sort of expand our reach. And that had to all be put on hold. It was quite funny. I actually found out about the pandemic while I was in the farm, and I just arrived, I think, like for a day, and then I had to leave like the very next day. So I was like, hi, I'm back. And then next day I was like, bye, which was quite sad. But I think throughout this process, what I've learned is that I think in Myanmar, officially, they haven't been hit as hard as other countries. Mm-hmm. Although I do see a lot of the farmers, they are a lot more active on social media because of an increased time at home. But they do seem to still be going on the farms, but they seem to be sort of like taking precautions, like sanitizing themselves, or even rotating who harvests in order to avoid too many people in the field. What they're worried about in the future is sort of the planting, because soon I think they will have to plant for the next harvest, and that's normally done with a bit more people on the field together, and so that would be a bit more of a challenge to the food supply chain.
Is it going to be harder for people to come there to help, or is it going to be harder just because it's everybody together and they want to keep distance?
I think it's a bit of both, but so it depends on which country you're from. So I've read reports that there are certain countries like Thailand where there are a lot of workers from other countries working in the fields, helping the landowners, and they've sort of returned home, and so that's sort of going to affect the supply chain as well. Conversely, on the other side, you have people who deliver the inputs. And logistics will be a problem because there are less people willing to go out and work for logistics. And I think generally farmers are a more vulnerable income group, not just to this logistics chain, but they are more vulnerable itself to the COVID, because they're normally of a higher age demographic.
Yeah, agreed. Lintang, since you work mainly with farmers on your app, do you think you target a different demographic than what Lincoln was just saying? Do you get younger farmers, or do you actively work with the maybe slightly older ones to actually get them on the apps?
I think that we got a different insight that in this pandemic, people tend to get some more new hobbies, I think, that become our new user. So the people who want to learn how to start gardening, or simply like how to watering, how to fertilize, how to conduct impending fertilizer, they become our new user in Dr. Tania, because basically in Dr. Tania we bundle the solutions, not scientific or hard to understand, but everybody who wants to learn from the first stage could also adopt it easily. Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like there needs to be a Dr. Tanya here, because my friends have been pinging me so much about how to grow plants, because they know that I love food. The amount of messages I get, I'm like, do I need to repot this one? What's wrong with this one? So I've been learning a lot, because I want to then answer those questions. But I do emphasize with the new people, yes, Dr. Tanya. I found it really interesting what Lincoln was saying about the supply chains being affected, and maybe inputs not making it to the people that they need maybe for the next season. Is that something that the rest of you have seen as well? So more kind of on the transport side, that the transport links aren't there anymore?
Haven't heard much about the transport, but we have heard a bit about the transporting of outputs from farms. Like buyers are finding it harder to get to farmers to buy their produce. And so that means farmers are getting lower prices, and then also sometimes they can't sell their produce. And then as a result, it makes it harder for them to secure finance to buy inputs for the upcoming monsoon crop. So that's a bit of a worry. At the moment. That's anecdotal. I'm not really, don't pretend to really understand the whole macro level value chain.
No, that works. I think Samuel, were you? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that has been there quite literally. Both, for example, I'll just give a few examples. One, we have a product that we call a foliar fertilizer, and some of the things that we need, or some of the ingredients, we get them from Nairobi, and recently it has been out of stock, and we practically it is not there. So we have not been in a position to produce foliar fertilizer for the last 2 weeks, which really affects us to some extent. However, for us, we are saying that now it is the time to really grow, because this gives us an advantage, because the fertilizer value chain has been interfered with, because we are not in a position to import fertilizer. And in fact, even the fertilizer that is coming in the country is not enough. So for that reason, it is giving us a chance now to really grow ourselves locally, because we are able to produce our fertilizers locally. So it is a big advantage to us, rather than to one way is looking at it from our end, it's business support. Yeah.
I love that. So this kind of leads into the solutions and how you're managing with this. So Samuel, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the innovative ways that you are working now?
Okay. So one of the things that we realized is the fact that we are not able, or the synthetic fertilizer is not flowing in the country. So what we decided to do is actually increase the production of the fertilizer, and also increase our presence online. Through that, many people have been in a position to contact us. Despite the fact that our marketing team is home or is working from home, we have received contacts from all over the country, people wanting to buy our product. So that way, one of the biggest advantages that for the solid fertilizers that we produce, we are not importing anything, or we are not getting anything from outside. So we are doing it locally. So that gives us a very big advantage, because we are able to produce in bulk.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really, really good. And I guess, yeah, this is the time where it gets highlighted even more how much the local stuff is important. Yeah. Lincoln, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you've maybe changed your practices?
Sorry, there's a thunderstorm behind. If you hear thunder behind me. But I think for us, we definitely have had to change our practices. But in terms of towards the smallholder farmers, it's more of being put on hold. not necessarily we had to not necessarily change our business model. I think what was more interesting for us actually is that we were given, amazingly enough, we were given more opportunities that came out as well, similar to Samuel. So basically, when I came back into Malaysia, we were actually supposed to try and set up a new project that we had here. Two new projects actually, to try and expand, to see if we could do the similar services that we had in Myanmar here, as well as to try and set up a different style of planting rice. So like a sort of dual farm where we call it rice fish, where farmers would plant rice and fish concurrently. And suddenly there was actually a bit more interest in it because it was seen as a sort of post-COVID-19 recovery scheme. And we had like a lot of interest, even more so in the point where we were like, we can't go to you guys yet, so please wait until it's over, because we weren't expecting that much interest. And so we're just trying to like capitalize on the opportunities and to sort of refocus. Yeah.
It's quite the storm that you're in, Lincoln.
Sorry.
No. I mean, obviously it's not on you. It's interesting. It's like we're there with you. I just wanted to follow up on what you were saying, you know, the new opportunities. Did you market it as a like post-COVID possibility, you know, get more income, or was it just people realized, oh, there's something different that I want to try, and then kind of came on board?
I think what happened was we didn't market it as an opportunity. No, we just simply, we always knew that the benefits would be farmers would be able to increase their yield, they would be able to get an alternative source of protein, and as well as it would be able to increase their income. And when we were speaking to some of our partners who we were hoping to link up with for this project, they actually told us that, oh, actually we're consulting with the ministry because they're looking for post-COVID-19 recovery projects, and this would be perfect. And we were like, oh, really? And it's like, yes, exactly. Can you like, you know, like do a proper presentation? Can you give us this, that? And I think things are going quite well on that front. And I think it's a very interesting angle actually, to be able to contribute to like a recovery framework or policy.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I definitely want to dive into that a little bit more in general, because we've heard from quite a few of our entrepreneurs that they've partnered with their local governments who are suddenly much more interested in kind of food security and local growing. But before we dive into that, Sam, are there any, you know, it sounds like the other three have kind of found opportunities in this time. How's it been for you?
I guess the main opportunity for us is it's forced us to change the mode that we've been working. As I said before, we've been sort of consulting farmers, but now we've been forced to transition to collaborating directly with a small number of farmers. And it's something we've been wanting to transition to for a while now. Coronavirus has really accelerated that. And so, yeah, that's been really exciting, where that when you're collaborating with farmers directly, they're a bit more candid about what's a stupid idea and what's not. And they bring their own knowledge of different agronomic practices. And so, yeah, it's a different mode of working that we're a lot more excited about and feels a lot better doing. So, yeah, that's been an opportunity. I guess marketing wise, we work in sort of digital extension where you don't require face-to-face interaction for extension services. And so we're not developing our own app, we're developing a tool to integrate with existing apps that farmers already use. And so those existing apps have obviously gotten a lot more traction due to coronavirus. So indirectly that could present an opportunity as well for us.
Amazing, that sounds really, really good. I guess like what we're hearing from a lot of you is that farmers are more online and maybe have more time to explore these options. What else do you know that farmers have kind of done to change in this time, whether like, you know, they've been forced to do so because of fewer inputs, fewer transport links, lower costs, or in terms of, yeah, the opportunities that they found and taken up? Does anybody want to start on that?
Notice that people try to be more digital. I think that they want to, whether they like it or not, they have to survive, even how to thrive. That's the point that people, that the farmers need to, I think that need to, I don't know how to fight, but or they interact with others. It's because in Indonesia, they previously they talk to each others in the field, but knows that the interaction is being limited. And also I've seen unique unique phenomena that our traction is increased because people likely tend to give more time to their phone or in their social media. Especially I think that in Indonesia farmers tend to use Facebook. So we see the opportunity, then we create the Facebook groups that people who still not use our application could use our services consultations through the groups that we created. And for the past 2 months, we've got more than 3,000 members in a particular, because I don't know, because of this coronavirus, or I don't know, either they want to gain more knowledge and share with each others what their problems, and people comment to their posts, and like us in Instagram or in Facebook. It's a unique phenomenon.
Has anybody else seen similar things or other things as well?
I agree with Lintang. We have two sets of customers that we serve, and one set is the smallholder farmers, while the other set is mostly commercial farmers who are relatively large scale or medium scale. So we have to think two different things. From the small scale side, or from the smallholder farmers, there's kind of increased interest in terms of the number of farmers, also the contacts that you're getting, the people who are consulting most on the fertilizer is on the smallholder farmers, but definitely most of them, they're doing their crop at home. So basically not very big orders, but you find they're ordering a bag or two. But on the other hand, we have the commercial farmers. Now, these usually form about 40% of our sales. But interestingly for them, they have been affected more because in terms of production, they are doing less production. I give an example of one of our clients who previously per week was doing between 2 to 5 acres every week. In the last month, he did only 2 acres the whole of the month. So like that is cutting back on his planting season. The other thing that we saw that was very, very interesting was there was curfew. There was like, it had 21 days, then before it got added another 21 days. So during that period, or before, people were quite uncertain. So what people did, they placed so many orders. But when the curfew was the time was increased, people canceled their orders due to the fear that maybe this might go longer than they thought. So definitely the farmers have taken different approaches, but one thing for sure, some have reduced the amount of farming that they're doing, which consequently results to us selling less. However, in terms of the new entrants in the market who want to try new things, we hope that through this we can get more customers and build ourselves. So that's what I would say about the situation.
Is that like, I mean, Sam and Lincoln, jump in if whenever you want to, but do you think this uncertainty of the fact that we don't know how long this is going to go on for, do you see that affecting farmers like Samuel just explained? Like, is that a big thing on their minds, do you reckon?
At least maybe not as much now as before. Like I remember a month ago, farmers we were working with very apprehensive. That, as Lintang said, the farmers we work with are very active on Facebook. Earlier this year, we were over there with farmers, and so often when you say you're from Australia, like, oh, Australia, and then they say, oh, how's the bushfires going? I'm like, oh, bushfires, how do you know about them? And yeah, so obviously very active on social media and reading all the news of what's going on. And so a lot of the farmers we're working with are very apprehensive, saying whenever somebody comes into the village, they have to wash their hands, and a bit nervous. But then, as Lincoln said, the number of cases in Myanmar hasn't increased dramatically, or at least the number of reported cases for a while. And so, yeah, at least the limited number of farmers that we're interacting with regularly are not as nervous as they were before.
Well, that's good news. Yeah. So Lincoln, do you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same. I see a lot of the farmers that we work with on social media. They are, interestingly enough, they always talk about how they're attending one, I guess, session or another, or like they will like repost like instructions on how to have good hygiene. I see them like banding together and donating like PPE to like their community hospital, things like this. So I think that they are aware of it, but I think they are sort of like taking the proper precautions. So it's probably not as strong a burden on them as it was initially.
I guess like on that front and everything that you've been saying, like does all of this more like being online, kind of having the same problems as your neighbors, do you feel that like people have come together more as a community, like within your farmers networks as well? And Lincoln, I see you nodding, so I think that was a yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. And how so? Like just in terms of like exchanging, you know, what their troubles are, or also in terms of, you know, how they deal with like how they farm and how they do things?
I think both. I think what's very interesting is you don't just see them coming together in terms of in certain communities. Actually, it goes more than that. It's not just they don't just connect with the community, but they actually start to connect with people outside the community. And it goes back to that. I think Lintang talked about how there's a lot more traction for online applications. I think I read a very interesting report in China, which was hit by COVID-19 much earlier than the rest of the world. Basically, the farmers there, they faced all their harvests were in danger of like they couldn't find buyers and things like that because the whole country was shut down. What happened actually was then I think one of the big tech companies, I can't remember whether it was Alibaba or WeChat, or one of them decided to set up this platform where farmers could video stream and live stream their products, and they would start talking about it. And you got farmers who became like mini celebrities, like social media influencers. And it was really good actually, because they then got like tons and tons of people who wanted to buy directly from them. And they were able to basically sell off all their harvests. And I think some of them reportedly said that like if not for like this sort of innovation, they would basically be out of business because they wouldn't be able to afford the next harvest by throwing away their current crop. But then now they have like each have like a following of like 10,000 people, and so they're like maybe this is this day, you know, like maybe this is the future of how I'm gonna market my product. And I think that there's a lesson to be learned there. And it's quite nice to see that even in times like this, it can actually be like really good for the farmers.
Yeah, do the rest of you?
I agree with what Lincoln is saying, and it offers a very great opportunity, more so for the market. For example, for us here in Africa, for our products like tea, coffee, it's one of the things that the Rwandese coffee board, they actually sold over 2,000 tons on eBay within 1 minute. So it was just crazy. So I think that's the future of sales and getting the product out there in the world.
Nice. Sam and Lintang. Yeah, Lintang, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, but if we look into deep customers that people nowadays are like have lose their purchasing power, or a lot of a plethora of hotels, restaurants, or cafe are closing down, but the shifting of the business is more likely to before it B2B, then change into B2C. I think that it's at the first place that farmers who regularly sell it to their horeca, like hotel, restaurant. It's hard to farmers to sell that crop. That I think that it's really good point on that. The China's government or China's big tech create unique marketing for farmers that shifting their B2B business model into B2C. That is really makes sense because it's more makes sense because people, food is our primary needs.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I think what we're definitely seeing is that over here as well, people are much more interested in where their food comes from, because as soon as there were shortages, everyone was saying, why is there a shortage? And then bit by bit, I think people are more curious to find out where their food is from. And that's certainly what I'm seeing here. And want to understand a little bit more and maybe emphasize with the farmers more as well. Whereas before they were just someone far away in the fields who might be like demonstrating because the milk price is too low or something like that. Whereas now they've turned into like actual humans that you want to understand and understand the processes. So that's been really interesting to see over here. Christine asked a beautiful question in the chat that I want to address before we go on. So you're all talking about the digital, the way that everything is interacting, but obviously there are those who don't have that access to the digital tools. And how do you see that divide, being, how do you see the importance of that divide? So the people who have access to digital tools and those who don't. And do you see anybody who's trying to give access to everybody else? Or how do you see this trend kind of going? Sam, you're nodding the most, so I'm going to pick on you first, please.
Oh yeah, well, it's such a headache that we face so much that, that access to digital tools is very inequitable, and therefore, if you make a digital solution, you're automatically excluding people, which is can in some contexts do a lot more harm than good. So I've been researching some organisations that are working out solutions to that problem. So one is Precision Agriculture for Development, where they carefully frame their digital extension tools to facilitate knowledge sharing within communities. So people who have a mobile phone might be able to disseminate information within their communities and giving them tools to enable them to do that. So that's one way. One thing that a feature that we've tried to add into our extension tool is to create site-specific fertilizer recommendations, not just for your own farm, but be also generated for your neighbour's farm. And another thing that we're really excited by is extension mainly due to low videos are really easy to not only watch, but then it's more natural to sort of sharing within a community, not just for the person who has the phone. So those are a few ideas, but it's still something that we think about all the time and something that is a real headache. So really keen to hear from the others as well about solutions they're aware of to that problem. And thanks to Chrissy Spice for the question. It's an absolute Twizzler.
Anybody want to dive in, share their experience? Samuel, go for it.
Yeah, so in terms of getting to the very end of the farmer, at the end of the day, it's sometimes very tricky because some of these farmers don't really have a mobile device, which is a few. It's not a lot of them, but also some of them don't have like a smartphone, so they have to rely on the USSD. But thinking from my my perspective, it would be like working with the aggregators, people who are already working with these smallholder farmers. It makes it easier for a startup or a company to join or to get linked with the farmers through these aggregators. So one of the, as we move along, one of the model that we are adopting currently, based on the cost that we calculated more so on getting the smallholder farmers, is the fact that it is relatively very high to really work with the smallholder farmers. And this cost, we are again transferring it again to the farmers, so they tend to pay higher for the product. So we thought, why not work with the aggregators in the market, already people who are there. So as we enter into new markets, as we go to the new markets, we are working with the aggregators. These people are already working with the smallholder farmers. They have a database of these farmers, and they can communicate to these farmers very efficiently. And through that, we can be in a position to relay our messages to these farmers without a big problem. So it's one way of cutting costs and also ensuring that you remain in touch with your clients.
That sounds really, really good. It's a great solution. Lincoln, I saw you nodding a lot, so I wonder if you're doing a similar thing.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with everything they said. But I think based on Christine's question in the chat, I think that yes, a lot of these tech telecoms that are coming into the farms will have to play a bigger role, because I think it's impossible to introduce expect all the farmers to be technologically literate without investing in education infrastructure in terms of educating them on what their phone does. Because I think while, for example, in our experience, while all of our farmers are on Facebook and they use it very actively, they think that Facebook is a part of their phone. So when they buy their phones, they get a Facebook profile created for them. And so they think that that's like a normal part of the phone. And they don't really understand the differences. So I think that definitely these companies that are already working with farmers, they definitely have a role to play, because I think when you're coming from it as like a totally new player, a native player that just comes in, you might be perceived as an outsider, and you might have a more difficult time trying to establish all the relationships that other players have established throughout the years with the farmers. And so I definitely think like partnerships are the way to go in that sense.
That all sounds really, really good. And I think you found different ways of reaching your people. If only, well, I guess if you're able to link through Facebook, then the farmers who have Facebook on their phone can also link to you directly. But that is a really interesting point right there. I think, so I mean, we obviously, we keep going back to this point of digitalization, how many have now turned to that. So I'd like to turn to the future now. You know, do you think this is the time where everybody, you know, the farming community gets digitalized, takes on board all these tools, has more time to look into them, to take up new things? Is that going to stick in the future? Is this where it's going? Or what do you think the future for farming will be like once we're back to whatever the new norm will be?
Yep. Maybe people should imagine that the future, and also we have to work backwards, so we can build organizations, or we build our regular activities that we call it new normal. Change behavior where the opportunity rises, and we could adjust our business model then to make it viable. But yeah, this show must go on. We have to survive on this industry. But I see that in agriculture industry have a huge opportunity to tackle this pandemics, because we know that smallholders farmers can help build our resilient food system, I guess, in a post-COVID-19 world. And I think that we have to create a strategy that to fulfill at least our national or our local demand for food, because noticed that government limiting the access to import crops, and they tend to embrace the local food instead of imported one. Yep. And we need to targeted approach to maintain their resilience and help the farmers avoid them for falling back to poverty. Yes, our homework for the entrepreneurial startups who works within industry, agricultural industry. Yep.
Samuel, do you want to go next? Because I think you were ready to launch it.
One of the things that I like imagining is the fact that farmers. One of the reason why the farmer is farming, he wants to see a profit at the end of the day, and the highest profit really brings in the highest opportunity for this farmer. So, and one of the things that I see is the fact that farmers will get to a point where they grow their food knowing exactly where the market is, because the world is opening and the farmers are no longer living. I'll give an example. It's an old
Oh, Samuel, you've frozen. Hopefully he will unfreeze in a second. Maybe Sam or Lincoln, do you want to dive in and we'll ask him to repeat his point when he comes back? I gave you an option, huh? Lincoln, you.
Oh, I was gonna say, go ahead, Sam. But okay. Yeah, I think that I'll try to provide a different perspective. Definitely, digitization, precision farming, and smart farming are all tools of the future that I believe the agriculture industry will be heading towards. But I think at Rising, one of our core beliefs was also that a lot of solutions are out there. So in the immediate stage, in the immediate future, there is also a very pressing need to not reinvent the wheel, but to make sure that the right technology and the right processes fall into the hands of the people that need these processes the most. And so that's what we also set out to do in the beginning. We wanted to find stuff that was open source, stuff that was proven to work. And because if you think about a lot of the more developed industries, agriculture industries in the world, well, I know for rice, it's countries like Japan, States, and Australia. They have models where the farmers use minimal effort to get maximum impact for their product. And there's no reason why those models cannot be replicated in a better way and a more sustainable way in less developed economies. And I think that it's sort of this transfer of learning that needs to happen, and it's definitely the future. And it's already been happening. It's the basis for a lot of initiatives that we see all around us today. But yeah, so I think that definitely that's one of the things that should happen in the future for the industry.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And TFF, we're a big fan of the open and collaborative model where we all learn from each other, which is what we want to do today as well, learn from all of you. And of course, we have launched the COVID Collaboration Collective, the code tripled, which is all about finding solutions today and helping each other because we're seeing the same trends in many different places. But Sam, do you want to follow up that lovely point from Lincoln about kind of being collaborative and getting the solutions to the right people?
Yeah, I guess a future avenue that we're really excited about is the concept of reverse digital advisory. So when smartphone and basic phone penetration took off with farmers, one of the classic solutions that was developed for smallholder farmers was advisory products where scientists and agronomists and policy makers give advice to farmers on what they ought to do on their farm. And often listening to farmers, we find that a lot of this advice is quite useless and sometimes harmful. And so what we're really interested in is flipping that, where you can create digital tools where farmers can advise scientists and advise agronomists, advise entrepreneurs and advise policymakers on what they ought to do. Yeah, so why can't farmers be the judges of TFF video pitches or TFF hackathons, or why can't farmers pitch problems via videos and become viral on social media? Is the example you gave, Lincoln. So that's something that we're actively excited about and actively wanting to experiment with. And so really, yeah, keen to hear from anybody for where this is already happening and ideas for how we could take something like that forward.
I love that. And like, we want to foster that as well. I don't know if you can see the little writing on Lincoln's background. It says, "Where's the farmer?" in the top corner, or hashtag WTF, where's the farmer with TFF? Because that's something that we really want to like work on as well, to have the farmer's voice, and to, especially in like a lot of the policy side, I think like now and then, sadly, they are completely untouched to what happens on the farming side. So I think that all needs to come together. And I love the way you called it, the reverse thing. Lintang, I feel like you were nodding a lot. So I wonder, is that something that you already have in mind or that you want to develop? I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, lots of things that we need to develop, especially I'm really concerned about the data collections, maybe. Data is really like an oil, like a new oil. We said it's very important role. It's not only for our database, but also we can see inside for financial institutions or crop insurance. And I think that after this post-COVID, after this pandemic, is farmers likely be more open with new technologies, new solutions that could help them to thrive their daily activities. And also I think it's a great opportunity to us to deep down into the technologies that, yeah, I agree with Lincoln. He said about the smart farming, precision farming or smart farming company. It's a future of agriculture, but lots of homework. We have to enlighten the farmers, and we have to we have to explore and tell them how big the opportunities if they could adapt our technologies, especially in smart farming, because smart farming is not only efficient but also effective. They can cut the production costs and also targeted their market perfectly, and also how they could boost their welfare as well.
Yes,
yep.
We agree. I think smart tools are definitely coming more and more as well. I think one thing that we're seeing, and that's why, Sam, I was intrigued to hear that yours isn't an app, it's something that can be integrated with other already existing apps, is that you read a lot about, everybody's developed their own app, their own tool, and that's every time like a new app to download, something new to look into. Whereas if we just plug it into one massive system, maybe that is just one thing for the farmers to learn, much like Facebook has opened so many avenues to them, and that's kind of a way that they already interact with Neurafarm and Lintang, like you said. So do you think, what is the way there? Do you have any views on that?
So what I really see as we move forward, definitely I agree there is a lot of application out there that are helping the farmers. And sometimes even the farmers get confused. What do I install? What do I uninstall? And what do I work with? What works best for me? So recently there's this feature Facebook brought of shop, whereby you can set your own shop without anyone's whatever, and then you can sell your product through your Facebook. So so that opens up opportunities that the future that we are headed to, or the way we are moving forward, is the fact that whatever the farmer has will have to reach the market, either with no middlemen in between. because once they are able to create their own shop and they can sell, then the product is in the market. So I really believe it is the high time we start to think on how to integrate the different features. We also, as entrepreneurs, we look at what is working for us and what the future holds, and then we look into ways of integrating all this such that we reduce the information or the amount of information that we are bombarding farmers with, so that they can also make informed decision much easier and much faster.
Yeah, I fully agree. Sam, I think you wanted to say something on this point as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point about there's Samuel mentioned about like there's all these things that get developed and then farmers get confused like what's useful and what's not. And this really fantastic report came out recently from Grow Asia, and they researched about for the last 10 years there's been all these smartphone apps developed for farmers, providing advice, providing weather information, market linkages, financial services, and the uptake has been remarkably low in a lot of contexts. Like it has been growing, but it is quite low. And so they went and interviewed 100 farmers across 4 countries in Southeast Asia about how are they using their smartphone or how are they not using their smartphone to improve their farms. And they found that very few farmers were using agri apps. Instead, farmers were using Facebook, as you mentioned, Lintang, and they were using WhatsApp or Line or Viber, depending on where they are. And part of it was a digital literacy thing that you mentioned, Lincoln, about how farmers get their phones and they think Facebook comes with their phone and they might not know how to download apps. That's part of it. But then also part of it is that they found that farmers prefer these chat-based apps and where they could interact with them and they could really have network-based connections with people that they already had face-to-face relationships with. And so there was a strong preference for WhatsApp and for Facebook. And so, yeah, I was really excited to hear, Lintang, that your Facebook group has over 3,000 members. That's really awesome. And so, yeah, I guess the thing that we automatically think of a digital tool is an app, but we can be a lot more creative with that and align with farmers' preferences, because digital literacy is part of it, but farmers aren't silly. If something creates value for them, they'll learn how to use it and teach each other how to use it. There's a lot more to it with the what creates value. So I'll link the report in the chat. I really recommend it in case any of you are interested to follow up on it. It really changed the way I thought about a lot of things.
Yeah, we definitely saw that as well and discussed that internally. I think, yeah, what it sounds like we're going to have like a giant Facebook that's just ruling everything, where just everything just gets plugged in. Although I don't think that will be the future, but you never know. I think, well, Lincoln, you haven't, given us your view on this point yet. So if you want to go for it.
I think it's been covered quite extensively already, but I agree with pretty much most of the things that Sam and Lintang have mentioned. And yeah, we're definitely seeing that too. But I would also love to take a look at their report, Sam.
Yeah, it's a great report. So then I think the next thing, because we keep going on to this, farmers have all this knowledge, they should share that with others. And like we said, that reverse, I don't know the beautiful phrase you used, Sam, but basically this way that they can reverse advisory system, where basically the farmers inform others what works and what they want. So first of all, how much do you think farmers want to get involved with such schemes? And how, what kind of like incentives would they need to get? Because farmers are incredibly busy. They have so much to look after already, and this would be kind of adding to their list of things. Or is this entirely wrong and actually that's everything they want to do and they're ready to launch into this? What have you seen? Sam?
I think, it's such all of the above thing with farmers. Like when we're working more collaboratively with farmers over Viber, like there's so many farmers that aren't interested in that model of working because, as you said, they've got a lot of other priorities on their mind. And so working with these people all the time over the phone isn't a high priority sometimes. And then for some of them, they don't really like using their phones. They much prefer face-to-face communication. Some farmers are really passionate about sharing their knowledge with other farmers. And so they see us as an enabler to get their voice out there to other farmers. So yeah, it's such enormous diversity. And yeah, some farmers are really keen and some farmers aren't so keen. Some farmers prefer to keep within their social network. And so when these apps expand beyond their social network, then it sort of hits a bit of a limit for them for what's of interest. But yeah, one tool that comes to mind that's really been able to do it at scale is called WeFarm in East Africa. I think and I don't know a lot about it. I'm guessing you know more about it, Samuel, than me. And yeah, that's a very peer-to-peer based digital knowledge sharing platform where farmers can ask questions, and then the algorithm allocates it to the question to other farmers that are good at answering those sorts of questions. And yeah, it's really based on the principles of farmers learning from farmers, not from these experts.
Samuel, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so such an application like WeFarm, in Kenya, we have several that are kind of doing that. We also have another one working with the ministry, the government. I'll get you a link if I have it. But what basically they are all trying to do is look at the current impact or current issues that are affecting the farmers and start on brainstorming on what is working, what is scientifically it's possible to work. And a good example was the fall worm. When we were hit by the fall worm, most farmers suffered quite a big loss. But now when they started interacting and farmers asking, what are you using, what is happening? So by the next phase, already even the farmers who had not seen the fall worm before, they were well armed with solutions that could work. So that is a big advantage and something that you can look into when we look into going in the future.
Amazing. Yeah, it's nice to hear that. And I think, you know, that's something that we'll see here as well. It's the first time that everything's gone down in a lockdown. It's the first time we've had this global disease. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, like over here, we talk a lot about like a second peak that might come. I'm pretty sure that by then we'll have learned so much. And then hopefully a lot of the things that we had to struggle with this time will smooth out the next time. And I guess that's nice to see there. And I think it's also something worth mentioning that, you know, even though this is one of the first times over here in Europe where I remember the shelves not being full in the supermarket, but obviously on the farmer side, they constantly are struggling with with new diseases, new pests coming their way, with environmental challenges. So they are almost like at the forefront constantly of reinventing themselves, and they've been doing that amazingly. I guess what one more thing that I want to launch into is then, because we've thoroughly discussed the digital side of things and also the marketplace now on Facebook. And in a lot of the countries, especially where you work, though, a lot of the produce is sold on like live markets, open markets, or on street vendors. How do you see the way farmers sell their produce changing at all in post-COVID, or are they changing it at the moment, like how the produce reaches the market? And how do you think that could be reinvented? Or does it even need to be reinvented? Or will we just go back to what we had before because it was wonderful getting that fresh produce directly in the open market? Maybe Lincoln, do you want to start us off on this one?
I think that definitely, because of COVID, there's definitely been a shift in demand. You definitely do see more, even farmers themselves, they will be shifting to a more, I guess, digital sort of, like they would be able to sell their goods in a more digital platform. It's definitely more attractive to them. They're definitely looking for alternative ways. The ones that have been reliant on like marketplaces, I think beginning of the crisis in Malaysia, there was like, we have a mountain called Cameron Highlands, and there was a report about how the farmers there wouldn't be able to sell their produce because now the marketplaces where they normally sold it would all be shut, and it would have gone to waste. And I think someone had to come in to sort of buy it all, and in order to help them. And I think that going forward in the future, there might be a shift, but I don't think we'll see sort of like the disappearance of local marketplaces, because I think that these marketplaces are actually quite integral to like the communities that a lot of these farmers operate in. And I think even right now they're opening up, they're just they have more like restrictions. People are more aware on that there is a danger now in like mixing around with too many people. I mean, even in urban cities, people don't stop going to the shops. When they reopen, people still do want to go out. I think that we won't switch to like a totally like everyone just staying in their homes and like getting everything through like deliveries, like society. But I think that that's definitely a shift where people are realizing that you don't necessarily need to go everywhere physically to get everything done in person. So I think going forward we'll see a more of like a mix, more like hybrid sort of like that sort of like have. I think someone said that COVID sort of sped up this digitization and this switch.
What are some of the trends the rest of you see in your country and your thoughts on this? Lintang, do you want to go next?
Yep. I don't know. It's only happened in Indonesia or in another South Asia, but in Indonesia, there's not much different from the previous before the pandemic strikes. But in our local market, it's still crowded. I don't know if that people doesn't care about their healthy or there's a primary needs to fulfill, but I think that it's not a big quite different because our local market still crowded and the demand for food is still flowing up. But I think that farmers will likely be more open for opportunity for startups or company who want to help them to produce to sell more their produce. I think that lots of startups in Indonesia, especially P2P or on farm or smart farming company that basically running in agricultural practices have the business model, have the supply chain business model. So they see the opportunity that people more likely to the farmers more likely to the farmers will more likely to have more waste, so they help farmers to give another distribution channel for them. Then I think the startups company who works in agriculture and the local market still exists in the future of the post-COVID.
One thing I can say that I've seen locally people do is basically I'll approach it from the family aspect. For those who are living in towns and the farmers who are farming, what they're doing, they're actually packaging products and sending them to their family. And from that, I can or I can try to say in future, we really need to really look into the logistics of supply, because we don't know what other pandemic will come with this that caught us with surprise and kind of locked down everything. We don't know what the next one will do. It might be worse, or it might bring a worst case scenario. So in that line, we really need to need to look into the different kind of supply chains, despite the digital being one of the ways to go and sure way to go. There is need to work on the actual logistic system, whether we are using vehicles, rail, or air. Whatever we are really doing, we really need to look into that in details, because otherwise we might sell online and then the product does not get to the consumer because of maybe several challenges. So that's also, as we go online, we need to really streamline whatever is on the ground.
Oh, I love that point, yes. Because you click that and you're like, cool, done, it'll come my way. And then there's that whole whole thing of, yeah, everything that needs to happen until it's actually at your door and on your doorstep. So yeah, I think that is definitely something that at the moment we've been looking into a lot more. I think also what we've seen over here, and I don't know if that's the same where you are, because I assume it's quite a Western thing, but here the fruit that gets to the supermarket has to be, like, let's say beautiful, right? It has to have a specific size and shape and color, and anything that doesn't conform to that doesn't make it on the shelf. And so what there are is a lot more kind of startups and companies that are selling what they like to call wonky veg, or they have other fun terms to make these, you know, the tiny apples or the carrots with a bend or things like that, to kind of sell those. And so you can instantly buy them, and then you get these, yeah, wonky veg on your doorstep and can use that. And I think that mentality has gone up a lot, where people are willing to try that more, because they're understanding that things are changing and that there are these things that aren't being sold, and that food security is important. And maybe we don't need, I don't know, the cucumber to be a specific size and length, and can use the tiny courgettes too. So that's something that we're seeing over here as well. I almost forgot, Sam, right at the beginning when we started this, you told us you tried some things when COVID hit, where you tried to go online and work with your farmers in different ways. And some things worked and some things didn't. So I was wondering if you could tell us maybe a little bit more about the things that maybe also didn't work, so that others who are currently finding new ways to work with the farmers to reach out to them might be able to avoid those mistakes. Oh, you're muted, Sam. No worries.
Sorry about that. Always forget that. Yeah, there's a big long list of mistakes that we've made. I guess mistakes with our product or with collaborating with farmers online?
I would say more like concerning the smallholders, but we're good for any lessons. We've got many entrepreneurs here who are happy to learn from you. So anything you want to share goes.
Yeah, okay. I think one mistake we made online was tried to work with too many farmers at one time, and sort of setting up a remote collaboration with farmers is really a clunky exercise, and there's all sorts of issues about mobile network connectivity, mobile network affordability, digital literacy, farmers not having the required Viber update to be able to do group calls. Some farmers not having enough time. Yeah, and so trying to really start small. I think in hindsight, we wish we should have just started with maybe one farmer and then see how we go with that, and really and then start with a really basic product to develop with them and then build from there. I think we sort of tried to bite off a bit too much too early. That was the key mistake. Yeah, and then also I think another lesson about remote collaboration with farmers was the ones that we've got the most traction with are the farmers that we've got the strongest relationships with and we've interacted with the most times, and which makes a lot of sense. Like all of these things in hindsight, you're like, oh, how did I not think of that? But yeah, so really focusing on the ones where you've got the strongest relationship with has been really useful. I've got some other notes here. Yeah, and then also farmers that are the most comfortable with their phones. Yeah, digital literacy. I don't think it'll be a headache for a long time, but in the future, but at the moment it is a headache. And so, yeah, some farmers, they say, oh, this is too annoying, just come and visit me on my phone. But we can't. Not even the guys in Myanmar can. So, yeah, that's another lesson, is honing on that. But then that brings up the inclusivity issue that Chrissy Spice brought up as well. So if anybody has any other advice for remote collaboration with farmers, yeah, really super keen to hear.
Well, let's see if the other three panelists can help you with that. Did you try anything new that maybe didn't work so well? Or did you find something that does work amazingly well that you didn't do before because you thought there was no use for it? Lintang, I know you changed and did some webinars that worked quite well, which I think you engaged new users in as well.
Yeah, in Neurafarm, basically, we try to during this COVID, we try to experiencing new approach, new techniques, and new business models as well. For I don't know, does it works or does it not works? But until now, I personally still don't have any conclusion yet. But I think the more we know that, the more I recently know that people in this during this pandemic is more likely to be more collaborative and helping each other, help each other's more recently. For example, that in Neurafarm, we for I think 2 weeks later, we fundraising to support Aksi Sayur or vegetable movement that helped by our farmers who collecting their produce from our local farmers, and we create a package and give it away to the ones who need. And the donation is incredibly not expecting that much, because the donation were distributed in the form of fresh food, for example, like carrots or cabbage in one package. Then people really interesting about the idea. I think that that's a new the new strategy maybe you can try to your company, that we embracing the people's fear too. I think people's that want to impact and to help others in this pandemic. Yep.
Yeah, I fully agree. This didn't come from me, but I love it. Is that someone told me that everybody's being so much more like accepting, so that, you know, because everybody's just trying out these tools and these new things and these new ways and business models, but then actually, like, throughout, everybody's just so much more accepting of things not working perfectly, and that therefore it's a beautiful time to be experimental. And especially, you know, as startups, as entrepreneurs, there's always so much you want to try and so many things that you think like, oh, at some point I really want to give this a go. And this is the time. This is the time where, I mean, if you have the capacity, of course, but where it is okay, even if something doesn't run super smoothly, this is where you can, you know, launch into it. So I guess my final question, Lintang, you kind of got onto that already, because you said, you know, you were looking for donations and people rose to the occasion beautifully. So I guess my final question is, what can the individual do to support the local farmers and the smallholders at the moment? Like, how is there a way that they can get involved? You know, from what you're seeing, or has that interaction between farmers and the public changed a little bit? And I don't know if this is directly what you guys do, or if it's just something that you've seen in your country, but I'd love to hear. I guess because we've heard the example of, you know, the Chinese farmers going online and just having their, you know, their star moments on their YouTube channel or whatever it was. So I wonder if there are similar things happening in your country where you're seeing people connecting to the farmers that you want to share. There's nothing.
Just maybe to it might not be exactly people connecting to the farmers, but one of the things that we have seen recently here in Kenya is the government has been on the forefront, coming with different policies in terms of how farmers interact with their product. And some of these policies are so old that they are back in almost in colonial era. That's when they were made. So they're trying to bring new policies policies into play. And definitely because of its government and politics has to play its role. Some of them are really facing a tough time, though they are great. Others are really not very favorable to the farmers. So at the end of time, we hope everything works out well and runs out smoothly. Just to give an example, is the tea sector, where tea has been sold by the Kenya Tea Development Agency for the last 50 years. And now the government has just come up with a policy that allows the factory or the processing factory actually to auction its tea directly to anywhere in this world. So many people are afraid of that, but at the end of the day, it has a very big impact, very big ripple effect to the farmer, because the farmers will benefit more. So there are people who are against such policies. But with COVID and in terms of participation and everything, it is becoming relatively very, very hard and very, very critical on how to approach these changes. Because the farmers are not really sure what is exactly favoring them, and they kind of tend to lean towards the political side more. So we might see this happening, but one of the things for sure is most of these policies that are upcoming, they are really favoring the farmers.
That's really nice. That is good. Then maybe their issues are finally more open on the table and being like worked on more. Lincoln, go for it. Sorry, I thought you unmuted yourself to like dive in here.
No, but anyway, I think just on that point, I think it might be very difficult for like the general public to, simply because of geographical restrictions, to get super involved with smallholder farmers at the moment. But I think one thing that definitely has been a trend all around the world is sort of like buying local and buying small. So like supporting your local small businesses who most of the time will probably be buying from local farmers, if not all of them. And I think that that is a movement that is sort of needed right now. And you see a lot of instances around it all around the world. And I think that is how they can get involved.
I love that. I feel like we're ending on a really positive note, which I am loving. And with that, kind of, I kind of want to ask each of you again for like a final kind of statement, just on what your hopes are for what's coming up, and how, obviously, because you are working with smallholders, you're seeing the changes, you're supporting them. And just like a message of hope or of the future, where you say, I want to see this happen. Sam, you look like you're still thinking. Lintang, maybe do you want to start us off?
Yeah, my last statement is, I think that COVID-19 is a challenge for all of us. It can be an opportunity, a huge opportunity for us, and we need to be more proactive, and let's collaborate each other and all pull together, because the agriculture can play a vital role in if it's the right chance to do so. And yeah, that's from me.
Love it. Samuel, what about you?
It is the high time to accept that the pandemic is with us, and it is for us to adapt and also adopt to it and come up with innovative ways on how to conquer it. And despite the limitation, it is also the high time for us as entrepreneurs to start thinking on producing locally, and also at the same time, also for the government and stakeholders to look into supporting local production, because at the end of the day, that is what the future holds.
Beautiful, yes. Sam, what about you? Oh, you're muted again, Sam.
Again, sorry. Yeah, just want to say, yeah, so crucial to be positive, and also so crucial to recognize that coronavirus is making the world a more unfair place in so many ways. And so really my hope is that people respond to this not with conservativeness and with sort of self-interest, but with generosity with the money if they can, donating money to causes that need money like the World Food Programme or things like this, and then also generous with their actions and generous with their passions, as TFF leads so well with. So yeah, that's what I hope for.
Nice. And Lincoln.
I think that this is a crisis, definitely, that the world faces, but I think the world has also emerged stronger from many other crises in the past. And in terms of the agriculture industry and the farming industry, my hope in the future is actually, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but Christine's question on the role of farmers' children, I'll take it further. I hope that because of this this time that they've spent at home and where people are more aware of the challenges small businesses and smallholder farmers face, actually the role of kids and even women farmers are highlighted more. And you get this more collaborative approach where they design interventions for both the children, the father who's normally the one that interventions are designed for now, and as well as the wives of the farmers. And we get this sort of like more wholesome policy direction moving forward.
Beautiful. Thank you all for your wonderful final rounding statements. Just like a super quick kind of overview of the main messages I think that we've had was that in this time we've seen kind of more community growth with a lot of digital tools being more popular and being adopted more and being tried out more. I think on the other side, kind of we've seen how important logistics are, and both kind of from the farmers directly to the consumers or to other businesses, and that can also play a role even with e-commerce, because you don't think about that side maybe. We've seen that finally, politics is embracing kind of farmers and agriculture a little bit more, and hopefully that will be to the farmers' benefits. Ideally, with what's going on, we can tap into this reverse advocacy where we have farmers educating others as well as the public and politicians to kind of tell them directly what their reality is and what they need, as opposed to others swooping in and telling them what they need. And I think the overall thing is that we are more aware of the local possibilities. We want to be more self-sufficient, have localized food production. To do that, collaboration is key. And I think overall you've all finished with beautiful positive messages and almost like calls to action and innovation, which clearly you're doing beautifully in your countries and as the rest of the TFF community as well. So thank you so much for all of you and for our community listening as well. And keep it up. And I look forward to hearing more about how you work, how you pivot, and how you make the most out of these opportunities. So thank you all, and bye. See you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you, TFF. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Thanks, TFF.